George Stephanopoulos can add to the status of the building, and also, George, to the current police activity. Weren't you a bit surprised to see nobody in there besides young Mr. Sutavee?
Nobody at all. It really was surprising, although it did accord with what we had heard earlier, Peter, and now we've just heard from one of our reporters, Lucy Kerrigan, who's gotten quite close, that the police are actually pulling back from the scene right now. The police and other rescue personnel are pulling back from the scene because they're concerned about two things. Number one, all of the asbestos in the air coming out from that smoke from the collapsing building, and secondly, the possibility of other buildings collapsing in the area. So they've actually pulled away now from ground zero, if you will. Secondly, Peter, another grim note. We have now heard that Chelsea Piers, which is a large several-block-long athletic complex over here on the west side at 17th Street and 11th Avenue, has now been turned into a temporary hospital and morgue here in Manhattan. It's the first temporary hospital and morgue that's been set up. There are now 30 ambulances operating out of there, and that will be one of the major sites here on the Lower West Side.
Thanks very much, George. Actually, we're now looking at some more footage that Kevin Stuavee's taking. Kevin, just tell us where this is. What is this?
This is on the West End Highway, and I can't remember the other street. You can't tell this. You really can't tell, but it's right there where the South Tower was, where the Marriott was.
The Marriott Hotel,
yeah.
The Marriott Hotel headquarters there, and you're still focused very much on the trade towers itself.
Yeah, and on the rubble, it's just amazing. The cars, the ambulances are all crushed. Lights are still going. Horns are still being, are still blowing.
Did you pick up there was some sense of activity here, that there was some sense of purpose, or just people overwhelmed by what had happened?
You mean the fire department?
Fire department, the police,
There's nothing
the other
they could do. They said that there were already 200 firemen dead. They were just, it was futile. They said it's bigger than there's not enough people. There's just a handful of people there.
Because so many firemen were working to get other people out when this actually happened.
I mean, you need an army of people to
and of course, the city will have an army of people before long because the National Guard is coming in. It's very interesting what the mayor said some time ago. He said people need relief, desperately want relief. At the same time, they don't want relief because they don't want to leave the job they are doing because in many cases they are looking for and or supporting their friends and the colleagues. And that's a bit of a review there of some of the material that Kevin Stuavee shot earlier, and which we're very glad to have. I'm just looking at one more report from our foreign desk here this morning that a KAL plane, Chuck Lustig, a KAL plane, KAL, you mean the Korean Airlines plane? Thanks very much. A Korean Airlines plane was forced down by U.S. and Canadian forces over White Horse Bay in Canada earlier today. The Canadian television reports that forces on the ground stormed the plane, and we have no other details at this time, but there's another aberrant incident today happening in Canada. U.S. military throughout the world, we've said before, are on the highest state of alert. So from what's spread out from here has just been quite extraordinary in terms of putting everybody in the world. Most U.S. military forces on threat condition Delta, which is the highest condition that the highest alert the military can be on. But as any number of people have reported today, any notion that the U.S. was invincible died in this rubble. Listening to some of the politicians talk today, Senator Chuck Hagel of Nebraska, where the president is at the moment, said America is forever changed. America's in for a long fight, which I think people in the fight against terrorism understand and have understood for a very long time. But somebody else said this is a huge wake-up call for the United States. Both former Secretary of State Baker and I think the former director of the CIA said that there was just not enough human intelligence on behalf of the United States in these organizations and cells around the world.